Welcome back to True Story with John Gibson. Today's guest is a BJJ black belt, a multiple-time gi world champion, multiple-time no-gi world champion, multiple-time Pan Am champion, ADCC trial winner, and much more, Elisabeth Clay.
Thanks for having me on here.
Man, absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. First and foremost, I guess I just want to congratulate you on your showing at the IBJJF American Nationals.
Thank you.
You crushed it. What was it? I guess what was that experience like? Just going through absolute and that entire event.
It was great. It's just like any other event. I won double gold, but it probably wasn't my best performance that I've ever had. So there's some things that I need to tweak afterwards, but it's great. It's my first major as a black belt in the gi. So it was good.
Yeah. You did great. You did great at black belt, and you had such an amazing rise off of your brown belt season. I guess you were so active. It was pretty great. I guess, one thing it's kind of maybe seems sort of random, but we had Seth Daniels from Fight to Win on the show yesterday. And both, I don't know if you had a chance to hear it or not, but both he and I were just bragging about how awesome you are, So I thought I would be remiss if I didn't at least go there. And I just want to kind of pay you a quick compliment real quick too. And then I have a great question for you. I promise it makes sense. But I'll first say this. So I became a fan of yours about a year ago because I saw you fighting in Fight to Win. And I was like, who is she? Who is she? She's awesome. And then you had the Gabby match. And that was for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I know her. I recognize her. And then from then on, I followed you every day on social media, one of your biggest fans. So I guess I'll start here. The question, can you share a little bit about the entire Gabby match and that whole experience?
I wish that there was more to say about it, that it was this huge thing. Cause I think like anything else, you build it up in your head.
Sure.
Oh, my phone moved. There we go. Like anything else, you build it up in your head, and it's one of those matches that I remember being asked literally as a kid. People would be like, "Oh, would you fight Gabby someday?" And me, the crazy kid, I'm 100 and some pounds. Yeah, I'd fight Gabby.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd fight Gabby.
Yeah.
So for it to actually happen to look at something like that is pretty cool. Obviously I didn't get the outcome in the match that I wanted. I wouldn't really change anything that I did.
You were great.
Just probably ask for more time and ask for a rematch. There's not really much else I could do with that. I'm pretty happy even looking back now, which for me to say I'm happy with my performance is a big thing, because there aren't a lot of matches, that even ones that I win, that I'm actually extremely happy with my performance, and that would be one of them.
Yeah.
But it was just great being able to go there and being at an event like that, and it was one of the first Who's Number One that they were doing by themselves, and just go and just be a part of that and have that whole experience. And basically not that didn't obviously have work to be there, but just to kind of have that to be with all the other big fights on the card and that type of thing. It was just great to be able to basically really see that all the hard work after the last 9 years is actually paying off.
Exactly. And and I hope it doesn't sound corny, but that's what I was thinking, because I was a new fan of yours, and I was did it feel I know it sounds corny maybe, but it did feel like it was kind of a dream, real, coming true, realizing, because you were on a card with all the stars, it's you were there, and you were main event, you were a big deal.
When I stop and think about it, it's like that, but it's kind of like I was saying, you build up these huge things up in your head, but when it actually comes to happen, it's just another match.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. You have this, you'll build this whole thing up in your head. And I've said the same thing about obviously I haven't won worlds as a black belt yet, but even that same thing of winning worlds or something like that, it's a great experience, and you enjoy it for a couple hours, it'll hit, and then the dust settles and you're oh, it's over. Now I have something else I need to do.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that obviously it was one of those things that I don't think anybody, I have a video of me and I'm goofing off with my teammates before, and I didn't post it or anything. And I was joking with Samir afterwards, and I was no, if I showed somebody this video and said that this was literally an hour before I fought Gabby, nobody would believe me.
Right. Look,
Um,
that says a lot about the way your mind is, though, that you're able to kind of dial it in when it counts, but stay loose and calm and treat it like just another match. Like, that's really amazing. Like, it's pretty unique. Let me ask, I guess, is that something you've always had? Were you always just a natural competitor?
it's obviously something that I've had to like hone in more, but I've always had that like natural, like I've always been good at competing. And it's something that like, I think a lot of people deal with like the nerves that they go out there and they forget everything. The biggest problem I always had was I would get like a really bad adrenaline dump where I like couldn't feel my hands. Like, so I always had like the adrenaline dump that I had to worry about. Yeah. And I would get nervous. Like I wouldn't sleep for days before competing. But as far as like the actual competition, I always competed very well. But it was one of those things that like, if anything, I've actually learned to enjoy the wins now more. It used to literally, my first worlds, I got gold and silver. I threw that silver medal out like 6 times. Oh. The only reason I still have it is because my mom kept going behind me and would grab it. It's like, because literally like as we were like leaving the hotel, this was probably like, I'd thrown this medal out like 5 times already. Like we were leaving and I like put it in the trash and we got like pizza the night before and I like put like a pizza box over it because I was hiding it. And she's like, where's your medal? And I was like, oh, it's in my bag. And like I had the gold in there, but not the silver. I was like, oh, it's in my bag. She's like,
the one that matters.
Are you sure it's in your bag? She's like, and I was like, yeah, it's in my bag. And I'm like 15. She goes and she looks and she like, for some reason, like she went back and went to the trash and she's like, you threw it out again. Like, yeah, I threw it out again. It's a silver. I don't want that silver. It's gross. And like now I still have it. I have the medal and everything. But I've definitely like gotten easier on myself, I would say, as far as like competing, and not only just easier, like actually starting to enjoy the wins. Whereas before it was definitely one of those things that like I didn't let myself enjoy it. Like it would literally, I would be done off the mat and I would be like watching video and like, okay, I need to fix this. And it's like, dude, like take at least a couple minutes, go enjoy the win. Right. And I wouldn't. Like I had won double gold pans. I won gold and silver worlds. And like, I really don't think I enjoyed either one of those wins. Like those were my first major wins. Yeah. And I was like 15. Like I was still a kid, did not enjoy any of those. And that's definitely something that like, and I can't even take credit for it. My mom was the one that's like, it's okay to sit there and like take a night, even take a week, enjoy the wins, and then move on to the next thing. So that, if anything, like I think a lot of people have to like not celebrate as much. They almost over celebrate. I had the opposite where like I wouldn't celebrate anything. I didn't care. I was out fixing everything. I'd get off the mat. I just won and everyone's all happy. And I'm like, and I would submit the matches and I would get off and I was mad at the end of at the end of it. And they're like, why are you mad? I'm like, I could have done better. And like 13, like 14. Wow. And my teammates would be like, you're more upset about your performance and you won than I am about mine and I lost. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but I could have done better. So I would say, yes, I was always good at competing, but almost too good. Sure. To the point I had to like relax a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank God, like you learned that a little bit about yourself to recognize that. And then like now you're practicing it, you're taking the time to enjoy a little bit. But as you're explaining that, it's so fascinating to me because like your resume speaks for itself and like you're new black belt and you're going to do it. You're a future world champ there too, for sure. But like, I guess what I was thinking as you were describing that was like, what was driving you then? Was it just the need to continually be better to improve at like your game, or was it the next competition?
It was always wanting to be better. It had nothing to do with the competition. Wow. I even said now, like, I would rather lose a match. Not that I like losing. Like, this is what I always tell people. Winning isn't that great. Losing just sucks that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
wow.
Like, so
you're such a competitor. Wow. So, okay. All right. So I hear definitely there's balance with your mom, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Was your dad, because I think your brother trains too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. My brother trains too.
So was this something that like that competitiveness was something on like maybe his influence?
My dad was never like super into competitive sports or anything like that. He's always been very supportive. But not so much like, here's the mindset, here's that. Like sometimes he'll be going off on stuff like that you're stressing me out right now. You're not helping. Just do you like, but he's always been super, super, super supportive. But my mom was in theater when she was younger, so she was in that, like, it's not competition, but it's very competitive.
Performance.
So it's performance. So I grew up with that, and then my older siblings were all elite gymnasts. So I was always like in that household and like in that mindset. I started gymnastics. I was like 18 months old.
Wow.
So I've always had that, like, and always been in that environment. But it wasn't like, I can't even just attribute it to the environment. Like, some of it is just me. Like, yeah, my little brother trains and he does well. And my older siblings were elite gymnasts, but two of my siblings quit when they were in there, probably like 13, 14-ish, around, like, they quit gymnastics. They didn't want to do it anymore. So I can't like just say it was purely environment, because they decided they didn't want to keep doing it. Some of it like is me, but obviously I have to attribute having that, like, the mindset. It definitely like gave me a huge leg up in having that and being able to do it. But at the same time, like, you still get that thing that it's like, yeah, whatever, mom. And she could say the exact same, somebody else would say the exact same thing she just said. And then I would listen. And I know to this day, my mom sometimes is like, I'm going to strangle you. I told you that 9 years ago. You're just not listening to me. I'm like, yeah. But they said it different. She's like, no, they didn't. They said the exact same thing that I've been saying. Like, oh,
I've been there. I totally get it. I wanted to ask you too, this other thing, because I think like, I think it's actually pretty awesome. Like, with everything let me say this, you're, as you know, right. But for the listeners and everybody, you're a really active competitor, and like, and that's awesome. And I love that, as a fan of yours, you give me a lot of content to follow and stuff. But with that, you're also a teacher, you're an instructor. So I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit about that too. Like, as far as teaching, like, what do you have, like a basis of philosophy or I guess, or do you have a preference? Is it just like, hey, I'm here to just give a basis of BJJ to whoever wants it? Or are you more of the, like, inclined to say, I want to build competitors?
Not so much, because the thing is, like, you can't just build a competitor. I'm very much super chill. The only time that I'm not is when I've had people like come up to me and you'll get it and they'll be like, I want to compete like you do, or like, I want to compete someday. And like, I'll tell them, I'm like, you sure about that? Like, you realize I'm going to treat you different. Like, it's going to be different. If you're just doing jiu-jitsu to like do jiu-jitsu, it's chill, it's easy. Oh, you miss a class here and there. Like, it's not a big deal. You want to be a competitor, and you're not only like, oh, you want to be a competitor, but you're coming in, you're telling me that, like, then it changes.
Sure.
And there's a difference also between wanting to compete some and being a competitor as well. And I think that needs to be a difference as well that sticks in people's head. Like, how I treat somebody, not even necessarily that doesn't compete. You'll get some people that'll train very seriously, they don't compete. And I'll treat them probably very similar to the same way that I would treat someone that occasionally competes. Or that just wants to compete. Not a big deal, right? They just want to compete for fun, whatever. But if you come up to me, the biggest reason that it'll not that I'll treat you different, but it'll change how I approach things, is if you're coming and you're telling me, you're like, I want to be a competitor. It's like, okay, well, like, that's different. You can't be missing training. You can't be oversleeping because you're doing, like, you stayed up late the night before, or, oh, you have cleaning to do at your house, so you miss training. Like, that stuff gets put on the sideline. Like, you stay up extra late and do it. Or like, everything else works around your training schedule then if you want to be a competitor. And that's the biggest, like, that's really the only time that I really change it and approach it in a different way, because I honestly, like, most of the people here that I teach, they're not competitors. I only teach adults once a week. I teach kids the rest of it.
Yeah, I see that on your social media, and I love that about you. Like, I'm all about kids, and I love jiu-jitsu. So like I think that's awesome. Yeah, sorry to interrupt though.
No, you're good. But yeah, so like, I teach the kids, and the biggest thing is the funniest thing ever. So like, the other day I had two of the siblings actually in the class. It's a brother and a sister. The brother's always getting in trouble, always. And the little sister, not even the one that trains, like, she's like 3. She was there, she's like, you're mean. And he pipes up and he's like, she's not mean. She's just strict. And I was like, if anyone was to say I'm mean, like, he has the most right to, because he's always getting yelled at. He's never listening. He's always doing something. I'll literally, because he'll get lazy doing warm-ups, right? He can do the warm-ups perfect. I'll be like walking as he's doing shrimps, and I'm like, I will step on your little feet and I will break your little feet. You better move.
I'll get you.
Yeah. And I'm like, just move. But a big thing, like, I would say more so, especially with like the kids, it's more so like it's structured. And the same thing, like I'll tell them, like, as long as you're getting work in, I really don't care what you're doing. Like,
Right.
you can talk as long as you're able to drill. I don't want to hear you talking when you're rolling. But
Right.
if you can drill still, you can talk. But if
Mhm.
I see you sitting there and you're not getting any work done, then I'm gonna tell you you're not allowed to talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
like,
not so much. You're not asking too much.
no,
Yeah. It's a great philosophy. So I guess, and this may be a silly question too, but like, who were some of your early instructor influences? Like who ignited that spark for you? Did you have it? Were you a fan of maybe a jiu-jitsu competitor, or did you have a coach or somebody in your life that you were like, man, this is it?
I always wanted to compete as soon as I started training.
It was
I've
just,
always had that though. The whole reason why I quit gymnastics is because I wasn't getting enough hours to go somewhere seriously with it. I've always been very competitive. I really don't think I could do a sport and not do it competitively.
wow.
That's just not me. It's never been like, I don't want to be somebody that's like, yeah, like they're good at it, but like they're good.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be good at something.
Right.
I don't like that.
Right. No, you want to be the best. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. This is great. So what are your and I know we're coming a little up on time, but so what are like some of your goals for this year? Do you have anything exciting lined up? Or I mean, you just crushed it at nationals. I mean, that was great. Anything else coming up on the horizon?
I've got a fight. I've got that fight with Ana Vieira in a week and a half. So
Ooh,
that one is coming up.
okay.
And then Pans is a big one right now. Gi
Yeah.
Pans that I'm hoping to win that is a black belt. Hopefully double gold. Not just wait.
It'll be so exciting. It'll be so exciting to watch. And yeah, and one last thing I always try to remember. I don't always remember, but I try to remember. And I did today. Do you want to have any maybe shout outs, sponsors, friends, coaches, anybody else you'd like to just send some love to?
Always my family. They're always supporting me.
Awesome.
I got a bunch of sponsors.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
Zebra, I've got that. Perry, if you guys want shorts, they've got that.
yeah.
Wild Bar has really good like protein bars if you want to go get stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much else. Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah. Awesome. And then
Where I post
Instagram's the
everything.
best place to follow you.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll include all those links and everything in the box and everything. Thank you again. I think oh wait, actually one more question. I lied. I do have one more question. I do try to ask this. I've had a couple of female BJJ competitors on the show before, but like it's a small handful of y'all that are like really out there crushing it, but I've asked all of them this, and I want to ask you too. What advice do you have for men partners, drilling, rolling, flow rolling, anything specific, like if you were just talking, it's just you and me right now, and you were like, John, if you could be a little bit better partner, like what piece of advice would you give me?
I think the biggest problem, especially that I ran into anyway, but not so much now, but that I would have training with guys, is that they like wouldn't actually train to the point that like I would have to be a jerk to get them to actually train with me. And there's also like there's a difference between you actually training with me and you just like using all your strength to like smash my face into the mat.
Yeah.
But like it probably varies a little bit different than what you probably have other females would say. But my biggest thing is like I want somebody that's actually going to roll with me. I don't want somebody that's like it's not helping me any if you're being not really nice to me when we're training.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing.
No, that's helpful. Thank you. It's good. Yeah, it's great. Awesome. Everybody, please go follow Elisabeth Clay, and we'll be watching next week for the fight for sure. I'm happy to support you forever and ever. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Everybody's true story, John Gibson, and today's guest is Elisabeth Clay.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.